Usually, if you have laboratory school, it's usually on the campus within the university with the researchers being present from time to time. So this is also different from laboratory schools like the associations we are in as members. So it's kind of, we are a bit alone in many things, but we can inspire from also few sectors where we get the know-how.
In Czech Republic, which is our close, our brother country, there is democratic education in really high level because it's developing. It's like we say mushrooms after rain. There are new and new schools, and we have some support from there.
Hello and welcome to the Agentic Schools podcast. This is John Berg and Christina Kottmann, our co-host, and today we have with us Juraj and Lenka Mazák. And I will let them say the name of their school because they are the first democratic school in Slovakia. So actually, to kick off, just tell us a story about someone at your school who just really got the most out of it, like really took advantage of what you have to offer.
Okay, so the pronunciation of our school is Slobodná Škola. That means like free school or based on liberties. So how we got to there? Well, we have 3 kids and we both have a degree in education. So that was kind of a starting point where we understood some basic things. And also for years, we've been doing children summer camps with my wife.
Yes, and maybe our firstborn, our first son, we have 3 sons. Well, he was kind of a specific child. He was a little bit different than usual children. So we really felt like we need something for him, something more, something different than basic schools and preschools. So we taught widely. And at first we started with a community garden where we were meeting some other families. There were families and their children, so we could be together and take care of the children together and grow together. Then Juraj came with the idea to establish a school, to found a school.
It was also kind of easy calculation because my wife is special education teacher, and in Slovakia the salary is approximately roughly the same amount of money you need to pay for 3 kids to go to private school, which would be at least a bit reasonable. So then she can stay at home and you don't have to wake them up in the morning and get the shoes and all that stuff. So when she's at home, she can have not only our 3 boys but some more kids. And if you have more kids, you make a community garden. And if you have a community garden with more kids, then you make a school. And usually when I'm working on something, I try to do it really properly. So we started a school which I can really see as a proper school based on the knowledge we have from psychology, neurology, and all the background we already have as a science output.
And we also wanted something more flexible, something family friendly, and a small group of children. So at first we founded the community garden, where there were families together with their children. It was smaller group, and we can discuss what we want to do. It was more democratic, we were outside. We could play a lot and talk to children because we really consider very important to talk to children and talk about all the stuff, all the world around us.
Very cool. So one of the things that I met Juraj and Lenka in Belgium for the European Democratic Education Conference, which was also the full Democratic Education Conference, international ones. But one of the things you mentioned is that you actually are an experimental school and you are actually getting state funding for your school. So helping our viewers understand sort of what the difference is, because state schools around the world can operate very differently. Tell us a little bit about what that means for you as operating a school. Are there restrictions, or is it completely free? What's your relationship with the state there?
Well, the states have different attitudes towards private schools because there are many modes you can operate with. For example, in Netherlands, you have 4 levels. How much money you get depends on how much curriculum you follow, basically said. Okay, in Czech Republic, you have 3 levels. You can be school, you cannot be a school, and something in between. And in Slovakia, it's quite simple. If you are a school, you have all the obligations, same amount of money, and same rules, like one size fits all. Yeah. So in Slovakia, you are a school or you are not a school at all. So now, when we were thinking about how to influence a systemic change, we definitely understood that there are many NGOs offering different programs and improvements for school, but we didn't want to fix that with another NGO, which would offer, for example, forest playground or something like that. We wanted to make a systemic change, which results in explanation to the government, which took like more than 2 years, that we want this kind of school. And the legal framework in Slovakia is that you first establish a regular common school with all the government requirements, and then you ask for exceptions. Well, if you want to run a democratic school, it's mostly illegal, whatever you do in that school. So you ask for a lot of exceptions, and then it takes a lot of time to persuade the government. So we took the path, spent many nights writing some explanations, apologetics, and it's basically, if you run through the legislation, it's point by point explanation. We will break this. These are the risks. And this is what we will do to avoid some pitfalls we see in that. Because, for example, if the government says that teachers have to have a degree from pedagogical university, then this is something you don't want to touch because this is really important. So we did not touch most of the stuff. We didn't have to. We just try to identify which are core issues. For example, that students have a voice in self-governance of the school, or that you can choose if you are studying, if you are spending time on the tree, or if you are doing whatever you want. So there were some options how to make that. And sooner or later, we persuaded the National Institute and Ministry of Education and one independent university to work on this with us.
We tried to make a flexible school. So we founded it for homeschoolers also and for daily students too. And we found out that usually homeschoolers use us as school because they want it really flexible. And so we offer a daily presence at school, but also the homeschoolers can join us in almost all our activities. So we are making trips for them. We are meeting them across Slovakia. We make many events for them. So we want to really live together and to be in touch with them. So this is maybe what is specific also for us.
Yeah, also we try to include the kids with different disabilities. So it's really hard to say who is a daily student and who is not when you come to our school, because they do know each other quite well. Well, we have half of Slovakia market with homeschoolers. So almost each other is with us, which means 800 of homeschoolers and 50 daily students.
And democratic schools are supposed to be like inclusive by nature, but we realized it's not completely true because we put much effort into being inclusive. We sometimes parents are doing like something like a special school from us because they are looking for something inclusive for some smaller groups and so on. We have really staff we have psychologists, special education teachers, and many teachers for the small amount of daily students, so that we can really work with them.
Out of 50 coworkers, none of them are full time. Out of 50 coworkers, we have like maybe 10 people with special education degree or psychology degree. So many of them are really helpful, and 200 of the kids have some kind of diagnosed disability or some temporary problems like divorcing parents and all that. So we are kind of like the last resort in Slovakia where the social service sends a kid when nobody is trying to deal with the kid anymore.
It's very interesting. I'm thinking about how parents can be really reticent to try out a new style of education. So can you talk about your relationship with the community and families?
Yes, this is interesting in Slovakia because most people here are kind of conservative. They want what they know. And mostly we have such parents whose children are failing in some ways. It could be that just that they children are autonomous, or they talk back a little bit.
They are stubborn, big
Yes.
mouth, and all that stuff, which is not very likely to appear in the schools without conflict. So many of them were grown that way so that they can really dispute with adults, which is not perceived as a great thing. But What we see there is a place for discussion. And as we mentioned, those core kids from that community garden, there are like maybe 10 of them. They are really doing a good job because they have never been in the system, or if so, it was really a short time. So they kind of do understand what we are doing from the very early beginning, and they have those values, really like internal stuff. So how we are inclusive, it's pushed from the outside. Yeah, like we are pushing that through the democracy as a value, and what we've seen, it's not that common among democratic schools.
We see that we need to work with our expectations a lot, as parents. I can see it in myself, and we need to support our parents a lot so that they are okay with what is going on with their children. We realized we really have a lot of expectations, and we talk to parents a lot about that.
In Slovakia, it's common, for example, for the grandkids that they would bring you a degree, and the grandparents are asking about what you have learned in the school and so. And in our school, it's like, we've been in the trampoline, we crossed the river, we did not read that much, but there's a lady reading for 2 hours with us. So I don't write very much. I cannot make a signature of myself. Many things that are like really important for the older generations are not imprinted in our kids. And it takes few more years to explain, yeah, this is worth to know, so you should learn that. For example, English speaking, we don't explain grammar. We just talk to them in English, and we take them to Budapest, and they don't speak Hungarian, so they have to deal in English. So yeah, this is how the world it is. Yeah, no one takes care of you too much.
So one of the things you brought up was, or that struck me as an interesting avenue, is also not only the kind of the challenge of parents and grandparents, but with the kids themselves, is that, they're kids, so they get into conflict. So do you have particular ways that you handle conflict within your school? Like some democratic schools have, some particular process that they use. Do you have something like that?
Yeah, we copied that because we are lazy and really tired after all those years of development. So yeah, we visited maybe 100 of democratic schools, probably more, and we have been cherry picking the best. So what we got is a pretty strict sociocratic procedure, mostly from people from Netherlands, and we adjusted to our needs also. Exactly today, we spend more than an hour in very calm and quiet environment where the process is really strict and you cannot talk whenever you want. And we handled really hard conflicts with the boy who has been diagnosed with stuff like ADHD and pretty severe. So we've been discussing how to deal with that because sometimes it's very risky. We went to the mines with the kids, and you cannot just run around the mine. It's not that safe. So yeah, there are troubles and those conflicts. So this is like a last resort. But in general, as I said, we have psychologists, and usually we have like 4 people with those, for example, 40 kids present. So there are adults to always help, to mentor, to facilitate, and to help with expressing emotions and trying to deal with all that. We also have a dog. It helps a lot to some kids that you can cuddle it when you are angry, go alone.
And those strict procedures, we use them like later in the solving of problems and conflicts, because at first we really try to talk to children, not to rebuke them, but really just to name what is happening.
Not only to children, we use it for adults too. Like, it's the same.
Yeah, so that's one of the interesting things about conflict resolution is in some school cultures, there's sort of the adults and then there's the kids, and the kids have to deal with their stuff in some separate way. But I think a lot of democratic schools try to be more consistent about that. Like one person, one vote means also sort of people are treated in similar ways. You can't treat everything exactly the same, but like, dealing with conflict in the staff, is that handled similarly? Have you ever had a sociocratic process with an adult?
Yes, we've had. Usually, when you pay someone a salary, it's usually easier than when you have to deal with the bureaucracy of regular schools. Yeah, we've had that, and it also hurts because those adults are present in the place where kids are evaluating their behavior, and they are trying to look at the standards. Like, it's same for everybody. So it's kind of weird feeling for most of the parents that they are so like investigated, like what are the motives and how can you fix your behavior and so, and they need to explain the terms so 8-year-old can understand. Yeah, we do use that, but also the procedures are different. For example, you can not use the violence on the colleague, but sometimes it's necessary to take away the kid from the road when a car is getting too close. So you do use physical violence, and the procedures are a bit different. But yeah, we have that quite well explained because we need to be clear, transparent, as democracy needs. So most of the stuff is written, and it's hundreds of lines about that behavior codes.
And that's probably something that you were required to do from the state. Like you have to have it all clear so that you can handle that bureaucracy that comes at you, right? Like is that part of the concern?
No, the government is not that interested, but it would really help. We are trying to offer to the government also that sociocratic process, and for those people who are interested, yes, it helps. But for most of the people, they don't want to spend more time dealing with problematic children, so they would rather do something with those who are listening and well behaving.
You kind of mentioned your campus. Can you kind of give us an overview of what the space looks like that you teach and learn in?
Okay, so basically, we are at the edge of the city where the major public transportation stops. Yes, so it's like close to the river and close to the woods, and it's 1,000 meters squared. I don't know how much is that in foot, but 1,000 meters squared of interior, and it's on the lower floor, so it's really easy, even for a lady with a wheelchair to get in and get out. So we have also kind of private yard where we have a tent. So we have maybe like 12 big classrooms, and most of them are used for the kids. We have a specialized, and we are in the city with 300,000 inhabitants around it. So it's like we don't hope for more than 100 kids to be ever present in our school. That it fits like those 50 kids we have, it fits there exactly as it should be.
And once a week, we are going to trips, and sometimes we have also half day trips, and those once a week we go into the nature or for culture to museums, whatever. So we really try to spend all the time outside, and also all the afternoons we are outside sometimes.
Yeah, it helps the kids also that they change environment. They need to adjust to new set of rules. They need to understand what's going on. Also, being we have when we were establishing school, we said that you need to try to taste the world. Okay, you don't have to eat the broccoli, but you should. So this is the value also which one we also push. So for example, you should try to see the museum, try to eat the broccoli, try to go to the woods and spend the night there.
And we also tried for resilience in children. So we really want them to like to feel maybe being hungry, being thirsty, and to work hard, or to feel exhausted, because we believe that it's important for children to have this experience and to can cope with it.
What we try to explain, for example, when someone is asking in a really short way that what is the output of our school, I'm using the word self-regulation. So I don't want to limit your time at the screen. I don't want to feed you with the broccoli, but let's help you how to self-regulate. So in the morning, you don't have to sit in very expensive car to feel like complete or something like that.
Nice. So you mentioned screens. What is the presence of screens? How have you decided? How is your community? Do you have rules about screens, or is it free for all? How's that work for you all?
Well, we have it restricted because we believe, most of us, that it should be restricted in some way in so small children as we have. Our school is attended by children from 6 to 16, and then in that age the self-regulation is just being built. So we want to help children, to we want to support them in building this self-regulation?
The last year, government decides that for us, the government decides to ban the phones from educational institutions.
Slovak government.
Yeah, Slovak government for good. So kids are not allowed to use the phones during the day. So we explained that, yeah, that there are some international contracts, European Union, there's national law, constitution, all the way down. We're going, and the phones are banned. So sorry, you cannot have cocaine, heroin, phones, and it's out of what we can influence. We can take you to the parliament and you can talk to the members of it. But as you don't want to deal with that, we don't care and you don't have phones. So what we do have are some phones, for example, for those who want to listen, to calm down or so. So you can have Spotify with something. Yeah, you can. Or we have a regular room with computers. Usually they spend 1 hour a day now these days. Yeah, it's 1 hour. It was 2 hours, I guess. And the parents were asking to have less. No, it was chocolate. Yeah. So the community agreed on 1 hour per kid for whatever fun you want to have, which is not like illegal or something. So they play usually Minecraft or some. We try to at least make it like socializing time because it helps them to build relationships. So we encourage them to play stuff which is like in between of them. They are talking, they're having fun there, and so. Yeah, and that funny story about self-regulation was the chocolate because kids are running their own place with chocolate, honey, I know, milk, yeah, some kind of cafeteria, and the parents came with the request to lower amount of chocolate you can eat per day, and the kids kind of didn't understand that. They don't have to agree on that, and they voted on and they agreed. So now they have less chocolate. And then they realized that the parents were just asking if they can lower that, and no one was trying to put it higher, like back as it was. So now they have less chocolate, and they haven't ordered honey for 2 months, so they don't even have honey.
Even more.
You know? So that self-regulation works well because they keep asking for something sweet or something, but yeah, I don't care. If you don't care, you don't have it.
Many times they say they want it differently, but when we tell them, okay, then go to the right committee and ask for it, then they say, okay, we don't need it. We don't want it.
Yeah, we will have apples.
We can save some money at school thanks to this.
Yeah. I think one of the fascinating things for me about democratic schools, because I'm fairly new to understanding this space, is that a lot of the issues we see in traditional education don't seem to appear in democratically run schools. So what has been your experience with students coming in from very traditional systems and having a total change of behavior or situations that could not be managed previously are now non-issues?
Well, I see it same way, that many things are not an issue anymore. For example, if your brain is not ready to read at 7, well, your brain doesn't read then, so you will read at 9. And if your brain is interested in dinosaurs or nuclear physics, then you deal with that and you don't have to deal with reading. So why not? So many things do not appear because nothing is triggering them, especially when the kids are growing different pace. Many things cannot fit into the schedule. So this might help. And also that peer learning, in our case, it's peer like from 6 to 16. So it's not that kind of like peer learning, but it's group learning that helps a lot because it widens your interests. And you see people, for example, what do they have now? They have those... the butterflies or what do they have?
Caterpillars.
Yeah, they have bought some caterpillars, and it's like this big caterpillar, so it looks like food more, but it will grow into the butterfly hopefully. So someone is dealing with that, with insects and spiders and snakes, and they bring it in. So you have plenty of interesting inputs, and you don't have to be dependent on anyone like adults or some book, and you have experience. And that leads to the motivation, which is like pretty strong, especially if you have ability to choose.
Yes, for example, our boys, we have 3 boys from 7 to 12, and they don't need us so much because like in the way that they can make their own program for all the day and all the days and weeks. They have just not so much time as they need. They have so many plans, so many activities. They just need to choose, and they are they suffer from the lack of time, but they really can do on some things with attention, full attention. They can come with some ideas and try to solve things and to, yes, to make real things. For example, our oldest son, he hated writing. He just couldn't write, didn't want to, and now he started to write
Scenario or something?
something. Yes, for drama club they established at school. So he suddenly started to write. A child who never wanted to write, who didn't care for grammar. Yeah, suddenly it happened because he found something like passion for him, and this is something like that happens in different children also.
But to be honest, many things happen later or do not appear at all. Because if you have a summer in sandbox, you cannot be reading that well because you are digging something. So you have different interests, but you do know how to deal with the conflict. And as I see, the best way how to treat those kids is let the motivation to stay as it is when you have a 3-year-old with all the questions, why. So that kid can learn. You just provide the input and feed it, and it grows and learns. So why to disturb that? Especially if we don't know that much about the brain, neurology, psychology. Many things are not revealed yet, and we don't understand. Especially if you have just one kid, it's not statistical, and that brain develops different parts, different levels, different speed. So what we offer is really flourishing environment with different inputs for the kids, and they pick.
And we can see how pressure can like affect children in negative ways. So this is maybe there is not so much pressure in our school. Mainly the pressure comes from parents or from state, because our children need to be tested once 2 years. So sometimes they need to show something, and then the pressure comes. But the lack of pressure, it's really important. We have some children with experience from schools, and they really count. They are coming, and they have such stigma in themselves that and their self-esteem is really touched in negative ways. They really need some time to just let it be and don't think about studying, don't think about things they in which they were under pressure. Yes, most of them need a lot of time to heal it, and then they can start, and it comes really slowly. This is pity.
Mm-hmm. Now you've been operating for about 5 years, is that right?
This is our
Yeah.
fifth year.
The legal school starts the 5th year.
Yeah. So have you found that you're, so you've had some testing results since you started, and are you finding, where's that showing? What does that mean to you if you're getting those kind of results? And what are you getting, and what does it mean?
Well, the research is written to be both quantitative and qualitative. So what we have are case studies of 15 kids for now, I guess. So the 15 has written detailed case study, which is at least covering 3 years. So this is the qualitative part, and we are running analysis on that. But the data are not that far as we want them because we don't need money. Well, we do need money, and we don't have them that much. So we are collecting data mostly, and we are not writing articles, for example, yet. And the hard data, which are collected by the governmental tests, they express approximately what we were expecting, that we are like an average or slightly below the average. And that was expected because the below average means that whoever is above 100%, you cannot measure that because the tests are not covering that. Tests are not covering also that you can make how to make cheese, for example, because no one is testing that. And also what we see as a major difference is that kids are definitely interested in specific subjects. So you have 80% in mathematics and 0 in Slovak language, for example. So this differs because usually if you have a good behaving kid with good grades and all that, it comes always like a package. and our kids have special interests, so this is different.
Maybe we found out that it's really great for children if they have possibility to say no. They consider it very important for them, and it's like they can feel like authentic people. They are like partners to us, partners to their parents. If they can really say no, so they appreciate it a lot. And we found out also some specifics about self motivation. Well, in our tests, they scored below the control group, but we found out that it depends on the questions because
A major problem is that most of the performance of the kids and tests are measuring what the general experience is, which means school. So there are basically no tools, and we will have to design some, to measure things we are trying to achieve with those kids. Because those tests are really asking about, for example, if you like to prepare for the school. And they try to find out by that if you are self motivated. Well, our kids are not preparing at all. What would you prepare for? Jumping in a trampoline more at home, or like what? So we will try to make focus groups to see how they understand many things we are talking in our research, because this is something which is probably different, and that's why we are getting results like self-motivation a bit lower than the control.
Right. The mechanism for measurement is mismatched to what needs to be measured.
Well, we cannot prove that. It's a hypothesis, but probably we'll try to find some other tools to make a control check. Or we will design some, yeah? Because actually what we are dealing with is the group management, which is self-management. And this is not something you can easily measure. For example, we were searching through the market, but usually who deals with that is HR department at corporate level. And those tools are not usable for 8-year-old. So again, we are like toolless in that area. And especially in psychology, many researchers do not agree with each other, and they define things like motivation with different views. So it's kind of hard to get something which also is translated to Slovak language. The government would approve that, university is able to work with that, and all that means that it's kind of troubled area.
at self-management, maybe this is really interesting. We have such a small gym and also the schoolyard, and you can see how children, they can manage themselves without us. Maybe there happen to be children, maybe 12 children from 6 to 15, maybe only 13, and they figure out their own play, their own rules, and they manage themselves just completely without our adults, and they really obey. And also the oldest obey younger, because maybe there is a leader who is maybe 8 or 9, and also the 12-year-old is listening to him because what the 8-year-old is saying makes sense, and they can, and this one which is has 8 years, he can really nicely manage all the rest of children.
One funny story from the research from the gym. The physical education teacher, he was working part-time with us, and the rest of his week he was spending elsewhere. And he, for example, found out that our kids, when they are moving around the gym, they don't hit each other that much as the regular kids he's experiencing with. Yeah, probably that might sound logical, but we have never made a hypothesis in the research on that. So this is like aha moment for us that yes, if you let the kids move around, if you let them to experience themselves and listen to the needs of the body and understand themselves, yeah, it has some results which are quite surprising.
They are making a lot of dangerous things, but their risk management is completely different from children in regular schools. They are using knives, they are using all those sticks, spiky sticks, and they can play with it really like safely, I would say.
No one would call it safely, but they don't harm themselves.
Yeah. I'm wondering then, because you guys are based in Europe, do you have a lot of collaboration opportunities with other schools, whether in Slovakia or within the region, whether those are other local schools that might not have the democratic approach or other democratic schools across Europe?
Well, this is really hard. In Slovakia, we are the only school of this kind. There are some little groups They appear and they disappear over time, but they never try to be as cool. And so this is the Slovakia situation. In Czech Republic, they have it much better. They have over 20 schools in Czech Republic, which are plus minus democratic. Germany and Netherlands, it works pretty well. Also Poland, it depends also on the status and shape of democracy in that country, because usually the government is more or less listening if they're more democratic. So it depends on that. But it's kind of hard to find partners for many things, because we differ from them a lot, because we are legal school, which is different from many democratic schools are not legal school. We are school with research. None of the schools in Slovakia are making research. Democratic schools in other countries, they don't even discuss many things with academics or policymakers. So this is also like we have different kind of problems. And also that independent university, usually if you have laboratory school, is usually on the campus within the university, with the researchers being present from time to time. So this is also different from laboratory schools like the associations we are in as members. So it's kind of, we are a bit alone in many things, but we can inspire from also few sectors where we get the know-how.
In Czech Republic, which is our our brother country, there is democratic education in really high level, because it's developing. It's like we say mushrooms after rain. There are new and new schools, and we have some support from there, because more than 10 years ago there was founded one bigger democratic school, and they are giving all their sources, all their knowledge like freely out. We use that a lot, and now we have some support from there. We meet like our school with their school, and we are talking about things and issues together. So it's really, really helpful. And in Poland, it's another bigger country near us, so we have some relationships there, so it's helpful.
Yeah, we try to visit, we share online within UDEC structures, European Democratic Education communities. We try to visit and ask people to visit us. And also, as the resources were said, in Bayern, they had a school which is closed. The court had it closed. But for example, the apologetics at the court, it was valuable, because you really need to prove to the government based on research studies and so yeah, we are trying to move forward, and if you want to copy our research, we are really willing to share. So if you have researchers in your pockets, take them out and we will run through that.
It's quite difficult with also with the legislation, because educational legislation here is quite strict, and you cannot, like, it's completely different in Czech Republic, it's different in Poland, so we cannot compare in many things.
Right. Yeah, so that's actually one of the things that you talked about, having, trying to get exceptions to things and really setting yourself up. When you're having the conversations with your academics and in your community, what are some of the things that like education myths that get in the way of your being able to communicate what you do and how you do it and the value of it?
Well, I would say the individual value of human being is the basic problem, because whenever you go to the legislation or thinking of educational system, you have a teacher who is a person, and then you have a group of students, and it's like Asia approach where there is no individuality. You are part of a group, and that value of your opinion, of your need, of your whatever frustration or mood in the morning, it goes down, and it's usually pushed away, because we as a group need to study this, I don't know what, geometry or something. So this is the major problem, I would say. Those kids, they don't understand themselves, and they don't see themselves as valuable to be heard. So their opinion, I need to pee, is less than the geometry class they have, because they have a class. So you have to wait until the break, or you cannot eat in the classroom. It would disturb others. What if others want to eat? So they don't really think of themselves as a decision maker or as a stakeholder, as the one who should protect some kind of value or property, like of their own time and their own brain capacity.
And I would say that we are not producing any happy children. We are try so that our children are kind of satisfied, and that they are satisfied with their life, and they know themselves, and they can live like yes, kind of reasonable life. Like they can be satisfied with.
But we are telling them that if you talk to neurologists, why do you have a brain? Well, you have a brain that would help you survive, not to be happy. So to be happy is something exceptional. It's not common. If you are happy, that's not regular status. We are telling them that, for example, if you look through the history, usually you walked 30 kilometers per day to get enough food for yourself. So don't cry here that you have to go to the bus, man, because it's like 50 meters to go to the bus stop. So, like, see the things in the big picture. Yeah, that we are somehow culturally shifted very high, for example, that we have basically whatever you can think of, you can have. Yeah, you have warm water, full free. You see, you can read, you have internet connection, you have most of the stuff you can imagine. And they don't see other parts of the global education. So we try to make it transparent. That's why we also invite people from other countries or people with disabilities to be a part of our staff. Yeah, because if you have one person talking English only, the other one is deaf or not be able to communicate in many ways because of some kind of mental disability. Well, okay, this is the world. You have to deal with it. And if you don't want to, you don't have a hammer because you have to go to him and ask him in English. So don't want it. You are not happy. You don't have a hammer. I understand. It's frustrating. Yeah.
And we are living like in uncertain years. We don't know what's going on. People are really uncertain now what's going to be, what we should learn children, what we should teach them. And we hope that when we like produce resilient children, when we help them to grow into resilient people, they can cope with everything, with whatever. And we just want them to have this trust in themselves that okay, I can do it. Whatever comes, it can be difficult, but okay, I can do that. Or maybe I can ask for help, because this is really one important thing that people cannot ask for help. And our children, we really push them, but we try to explain them that really sometimes you need to ask for help, and you don't have to, or it's okay, you can try it on your own. But if you really want and need it, just come and ask for help. It's nothing like it's okay to ask for help.
Many concepts adults are missing. It comes natural with our kids. Yeah, that help concept definitely. Also, many concepts like that you need to try to solve the conflicts, because when you are growing, usually you get fairy tales with like the that, for example, my wife, yeah, is always a good person. No, she has some flaws, and I have some flaws, and we need to make it work to deal with that. So we are not like anymore in the fairy tales who are bad guys and good guys, and they need to understand that. Yeah, the driver in the bus is throwing you out of the bus because you took a stick and mud and all the dirt in there, so you are going on foot, and it's his right because it's declared here in the rights the driver has.
And also to ask questions like why. Children are often not allowed to ask why. And our children, we really support that they ask why. Even when I considered it like it has to be this way, and the child comes and he asks why. And now me, I as an adult, I have to think about wow, why? And really sometimes we find out that okay, maybe it don't have to be this way. It can be some other way.
Many times they come with the question, why is it that bad and not improved? And we tell them, well, because no one took care of it. Do you want to take care of it? We can help you this way or that way. Do you want? We can live with that.
It's wild to see all of the contrast from my experience in traditional international schools, especially the privilege of those elite arenas. And you're talking about like all of these things that schools are now starting to bring in, like awareness of others, governance of your own capabilities, and the self-reliance factors that haven't been part of the curriculum, and even now they're kind of set to the side. So if you were going to coach someone who wanted to start schools that really recognize the individual as valuable in the conversations and really honor the students as participants, not just that group like you talked about, how would you coach them to begin? or start that journey?
Maybe I would advise them not to put it into curriculum like well-being or resilience, because as you put it into curriculum, you start to teach it, and as you start to teach it, you are missing the point, because children are just teaching about something, they are not learning it. And maybe, yeah, really support children to learn, not to be taught, and to wait to be taught.
In general, it's very hard because the expectations on the curriculum are so high that first you would need to work with adults to lower the curricular expectations. For example, you will not speak 3 languages. Yeah, well, you will not. Okay, go to Europe if you want to speak 3 languages and live somewhere in Brussels, or okay, this is how you learn language, and not by sitting in a classroom. So if you want to choose and let the kids choose, they would become picky. And most of the stuff we are teaching is honestly coming from 18th century. Because, for example, why don't we teach economics or psychology? Because they came too late, yeah, basically. So they didn't get into the curriculum. Chemistry was added a little bit later, okay? So you have something, but it's not logical at all. For example, environmental topics, they're somehow added to some parts. Or, for example, in Slovakia, we are now dealing with many things which are not logical at all. And people cannot understand, for example, the big numbers. People do not deal usually with the big numbers. So if you tell them a billion, a trillion, they don't see much difference. So if you steal a billion or a million, a trillion, no one cares. It's okay, you stole some big money. Yeah. And this is important because when they deal with politics, they are voters. And I want to have some kind of social insurance and background and healthcare and all that. You know, that you have heard about from Europe. So the systems are great. And if I want that, you need to work on that. You need to understand how it works. You cannot make a big hole in the budget. So this is something that makes a lot of mistakes. If you let the kids learn by doing, that would create a lot of mistakes. So if you teach them directly the answers, okay, they can get a lot of answers. But if you want to let them ask and you want to help them to find the answers, it takes much more time. So the curriculum should be much smaller. Also, you need experienced teachers, which means not experienced in teaching, but in doing something. Okay, so you are a good cook, you love to bake something, I don't know, cookies, whatever. You are climbing, you are doing, I don't know, whatever. Yeah, you like to fix bicycles. So that passion, if you go through the studies of how you pass things on to kids, it's passion mostly. No curriculum, no great books, no screens, projectors, whatever. It doesn't work that way. And we do know that. And that's the biggest flaw, that we do know how it works and we don't use that. I don't understand how electricity came to the schools and psychology and neurology did not come inside. I don't get that.
Yeah, it's interesting because the idea that so there's a whole debate in my LinkedIn pages and things like that. Sort of there's these people who are in the mainstream and really committed to efficient instruction, and their punching bag is discovery or inquiry learning. But then what they're criticizing is that it isn't efficient. Yeah, like if you expect efficiency, don't do that. Right. But that has value independent of whether it's efficient or not. And in fact, you could argue that in the bigger picture, it's actually more efficient because the depth of commitment that the student brings to that subject when they've chosen it and they've pursued it and made a lot of mistakes along the way, ultimately they're going to learn it more deeply. And they will recognize that they should perhaps get a really good instructor, someone who can help them make less mistakes. But if they're going in that direction, then they're probably actually scaling up, getting beyond just a basic level, and they're starting to get some real depth. And then, efficient instruction might be a really good way to go. But it's context dependent.
The problem of educational system is how it was built, because it started with university level and top-down approach led to the pressure on efficiency. Yeah, so you need a lot of students who are smart, and from those you can pick. And to be picky, you really need the amount, and so you need to teach them how to read very early, and also, yeah, the workers in the factories, etc. the government needs money and taxes. I fully understand why the system is designed this way, but it's not aligned with most of the stuff we now know about the brain and psychology, motivation, and all the things. And I still can understand that, for example, you would prefer a nice car and I prefer a fuel efficient car, and maybe my wife wants a red car in the first place. So, okay, let that choice to be present in educational system. This is
Right.
what we want, because we are fully okay that some church want to have their own schools. Okay, Montessori, Waldorf, let them be. Yeah.
Right.
Yes, the efficiency is kind of an issue, but I believe that we should learn children to love the knowledge, not just a workbook or something like that. If they love knowledge, they can get it from different sources, but they don't have to use just one which their teacher chose. And this is like really elementary thing for me, because we see children who have troubles to learn read or math or whatever, but they really love information. And we can I think that fact checking is also important, and also the love of information, the love of knowledge, and then you can learn a lot. I think in this is the efficiency, that the child finds the sources, the ways of how he can learn and what he wants to learn. And sometimes they don't choose what we want, and they definitely don't choose 15 subjects as we have in for example 8th grade. It's terrible. If you give child the opportunity, it doesn't choose like 15 subjects at once. They have like part of their life they have biology, part of their life they have geography, but not like this. Many times it's just mixed. They allow it mixed because it is like life.
I love the approach. For example, one young lady was thinking about what to study, and she said that I want to play Minecraft and learn how to play piano in this half of the year. And she did it. And then she said, okay, I'm done with that. Let's explore something new. And that adventures, that pioneering, that let's do this way, let's go that way. That's important because it teaches really that resiliency and also self-regulation, as I said, because sometimes you need to know the exit points, when to stop the quarrel, when to stop your exploration, when it's too risky, when it's too harmful to you or to someone else. Yeah, and you need to make sometimes collective decisions because some people are tired, some are weaker, some are hungry, some are whatever. And this teaches them that sometimes you are in the positions when you feel weak and you need support and you need to ask for help. And sometimes you are the one who can offer the help to the others. And these roles can come to the place only when the collective, the group of kids is individualized. And yes, it's like kind of Western approach. I understand that. But we want them to be aware of themselves, of how they fit into the bigger picture. So they need to first be aware that I am not my mother. Yeah, that happens in 2 years. Then the kid gets angry. And so, okay. So then they need to appear that I am making my decisions about my body. If I take a jacket, if I am cold, if I get sick. Yeah, they need to understand those consequences. And what we do is that we protect from consequences. You don't get a knife because you might have some consequences. Well, if you check some native tribes in North America, the natives led 3-year-old kids to cut the meat. So kids are perfectly capable, if they are led, to cut the meat. So might be a working model. And if they play with fire, yes, they have some scars, they have some burns. Okay, well, but what's the value of experience and what's the value of something perfect? I'm perfectionist, and the sentence that the biggest enemy of good enough is the perfect is something what I have to deal with in my life. And I learned that after my 30s. What the hell no one has told me before? Yeah, because I was told whatever was whatever was preached to everybody else. And I needed my own curriculum, my own understanding of myself.
That reminds me of there's an organization here in my local community called Trackers Earth, and they only have a few simple rules. Don't die. No injuries that last more than 3 days. Those are their two main rules. And so it's right along the lines of what you're saying, is that they teach things like iron. They make knives and they make axes and they make tools. It's one of the things. I mean, they do many things, but they're actually based on what is called sometimes primitive skills, or there's a variety of terms for it. But kind of that idea of get out there and do stuff, do interesting stuff, and build skills in that are really helpful if you're out in the woods or whatever. So actually, I'm going to have us start wrapping up. And I want to have you finish on storytelling. So tell us a story of a challenge that a student or the school faced, and as a result, the school was a better place for it.
Do you have one? Many things I would think of are connected with honesty and open communication, because that admitting that you are not capable of doing something, you are vulnerable, you are explaining that you are not good enough for something you are trying to do. But many of those stories are kind of private. But in general, that admitting of not being able to achieve what you are expected, that's something which usually changes the view of yourself, because you tell others that you are not good enough. So do they love me? Do they still accept me? Do they want me? Do they allow me to be with them? And maybe do they admit that they are also somehow failing? So these failures are usually the teaching moments. And how we work with that is that we ask you if you want to learn the feedback on improvement, and maybe 30% the kids are interested in the feedback, and 70% they are not, and they are fully okay with being themselves.
Nice.
You have a nice story?
This is really the conflicts and the process of solving. Usually when we have some children which are really difficult to handle and to live with, we are learning a lot, because all the community is like try to survive, and we need to deal with something difficult. Then we are, as a result, we are closer to each other. We talk through different topics and really like deeper topics. And when there is a deeper talk with child or with a colleague, it's quite wonderful time. And this is maybe why we are doing that, for these deeper times.
Few days ago, one colleague told me about a really big failure, which would cost us a lot of resources, and he said that it would help him if I hit him. I'm telling you, I'm not going to hit you, because that would not help in any way. And yeah, it's something like you really let others to understand how bad you have it inside, because this is something he was used to, and he's bringing his traumas from childhood, and it takes forever to deal with that for adults. So what we tell also the kids, that we know that we are not perfect, we have never been to democratic schools on our own, and we are healing our traumas here, so please be patient with us. It's also that vulnerability and openness which helps. Yeah, it takes a lot of tears, a lot of feelings, and a lot of harmful dialogues when you get the feedback you didn't like. That would be the basic of all the stories.
Yeah. Right on. So if people want to find out more about your school, like web resources or other resources, how can they find out more?
Well, we are trying to be present online, so you can try to Google Slobodná Škola in Slovakia, or you can find us on the pages of associations, which is like International Association of Laboratory School, or udec.org, which is European Democratic Education Communities. And we are trying to be at the most of the major actions which are happening in the field. But also we have limited resources. But we would love to see many people, not only online, but visiting Slovakia. It's not that far as you might think. So if anybody is listening and willing to think of a trip, we will welcome you.
And we will post links as well in descriptions on YouTube and things like that.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.